Tim, to start off with, why an album of Tim Finn songs without Split Enz?
Doing a solo album is something that I've had in mind for quite a while, probably 3 or 4 years, in the back of my mind that is, because the band has taken up an awful lot of time, and to get Split Enz to the stage where it is now has meant pretty well full-time effort. However, we did allow ourselves quite a break this year, and it immediately became apparent to me that bingo, this was the time to do it. And I thought at first that I was going to be squeezing things in a bit much, because Enz's commitments at that stage were probably to start an album around May, or April or May. However, that's been put back till July, because we're going to be working with Hugh Padgham again, and that was his schedule. So there was plenty of time, really, and it was good, because I thought at first it would be an opportunity to use up a lot of songs I'd had lying around, but in actual fact, there are only 3 or 4 songs on the album that were written in the past, so to speak. Quite a lot of them were written in the 3 months immediately prior to recording, so it had that fresh excitement about it as well. And it was just an opportunity to do something different. I've been doing Spit Enz for 10 years now. I thought it was time to step out and see what I could do on my own.
Listening to Escapade, there's a directness and lightness about the album that's not evident so much with your work within the band. Why do you think this is?
Well, there is a directness and a sort of a calm, almost happy at times feeling to the lyrics on the album. I think that was just the way I was feeling before the album. I was living a fairly quiet life, if you like, in my house in Melbourne, and a lot of thoughts came through my head, and I started to use male-female songs again a lot. I was writing them from that point of view. I could feel the mood changing, if you like, around me. People are certainly clinging to one another now with more intensity, I think, than perhaps over the last 10 years. I think men and women are becoming good friends again. And all of these thoughts were going through my head, and I ended up writing songs from both sides of the coin, from the anticipation of a relationship to the actual relationship itself, and then through perhaps the end of it. I came at it from those 3 sides, if you like. Most of the songs on the album are that way orientated. And I think the last Spit Enz album dealt more with fairly abstract sort of images, and certainly we used the Pioneer image to quite a good effect. And we didn't really have any male-female songs on that album, so in a way it was a reaction away from that.
How strongly do you identify with new songs on the album? Do you think they represent some of your best work, or is it more of a transitional album? Using up old material for a new Split Enz album?
Well, I feel confident in the material. I did before I recorded it, and now it's down. I think I did it justice. I think it's they're all very personal songs. All my songs are, really. I always write from my own personal sort of vision of things, and I think the best songs on the album stand up with the best of my work. It's the first one. It's going to happen again, hopefully. This album will do well enough so that I will want to. Well, even if it doesn't, I would, but if it did well, I'd do it with more abandon, if you like. I'd like to do another one, and then another one after that, and just follow it as a separate progression, really, from the band. The band is a result of years of work and cohesive sort of effort. It's almost an organic thing now. It has its own life, whereas my solo career is just starting, and it's given me a fresh slant on things again, made me feel like a new artist.
What was the reaction of the rest of the band to the new material, and did their reaction mean a great deal?
Well, yeah, what the other guys thought meant a lot to me, beforehand and during and after. Beforehand, it was important to me that they were behind me, and they could see it as a good thing for me to do and not a step away from the band, which of course, being sensible chaps, they all did see. And I got a lot of encouragement from them all. And during the album, I was away a lot. I was up in Sydney and they were down here, so now and again it was important for me to pick up the contact. In fact, halfway through the album, we did the Sweetwaters gig in New Zealand, which was a nice break, a chance for us all to get together in a different country. And then afterwards, of course, I played it to them, and I was nervous as a kitten about playing it to them. I mean, probably more nervous than I would be at, say, presenting a new song to the band for the first time, because this was a whole bunch of songs and none of them had anything to do with them. So it was interesting, but they seem to like it. They have, we haven't gone into great details, but I think they see it as a good step forward for me, and they might all hate it. Who knows? Not a lot has been said, but what has been said has been very encouraging. I mean, it is important to me what they think, goddammit. I mean, we've all been together for so many years. They're like brothers, really.
Speaking of brothers, how did Neil specifically feel about the new material? Did you talk at length about the new songs?
Neil said that he thought the album should do very well, and he mentioned a few songs in particular, I think, that he liked in a minor key. He likes Fraction Too Much Friction. So we talked about it a bit, but we don't go on about it, because in a way I feel almost guilty, because I've been up there doing it, and they've all been waiting around for the Spit Enz album, and they're all sort of chomping at the bit, frothing at the mouth, whatever. And I've been out there having a gay old time in Sydney. I'm sorry, not a gay old time, a butch old time. But I've been enjoying myself, and I feel a bit guilty about that, so I don't like to, sort of bring it up too much.
Okay, well, let's talk about the specific songs on the album. The first single, Fraction Too Much Friction, can you tell us about the origins of this particular song?
Fraction Too Much Friction, the initial idea came to me, this is one of the older songs. It came to me in 1979, it might have been 1980, when I was living in Sydney. And I just went for a walk one day. I think I'd had a row with somebody, not mentioning any names, and the phrase Fraction Too Much Friction popped into my head, and so did the tune, and it just developed from there. I didn't really finish it until quite recently, before the album, and it's got that nice reggae feel, which, thanks to Ricky on the drums, but it's also got a strange folky sort of quality to it, and also pop sort of aspects. So it's a bit of a mixture of styles. But the thing that really I was pleased about was the soulful middle section, which I just did it as a little jam at home, where it goes into the look for a man who will love his woman. I mean, for me, for a white honky from Waikato, New Zealand, that's pretty soulful. And that thrilled me. That had genuine feeling in it, and the whole song just went to another dimension, really.
Now, that brings us to another point. I think when you originally went to record the album, you saw it more as being a solo album. With the drum machine, synthesizers, very much a Tim Finn production, but you ended up with an entire band and backup singers. How much of an influence or effect do you think it had, having these people play your music?
Well, it had a tremendous effect. As you say, I did fully intend it initially to be a drum machine album. I thought that's the way I could best get at my material, but all of a sudden when I was up there, I just found, well, Ricky's such a wonderful drummer for a start, and we had a great bass player, Chris Haig, and then Sam McNally came down and played some keyboards, and Mark got on the guitar, and I was on the piano, and all of a sudden we had a band, and it wasn't like going solo at all in a funny sort of way. It was like joining another band, the last thing I expected. But because of that, I realised yet again my dependence on musicians and my reliance upon their sort of inspired moments, if you like, because it was pretty loose. They didn't walk in and I didn't say, well, play this, play that, do this, do that at all. But they were carefully picked players who blended in well, and they just took the song and developed it, and right through to coming up with ideas for structures, like maybe the bridge should go here, or maybe the ending should be like this. It was just very open, and we had an awful lot of fun, and a very sort of intense 2-week period, really, where we got most of the rhythm tracks down. It was fantastic. It was like a party every night. By that I don't mean we didn't work, but there was a joyousness to it, and it was beyond my expectations from that point of view. Just different from Spit Enz, no better, no worse, but just a whole different experience.
Moving on to the next song on the album, Made My Day. This song has a very distinctive gospel upbeat feel about it. Can you tell us about this song?
Made My Day. Well, this is obviously a very up song in mood and in sort of arrangement. It's a positive song, a song of gratitude, if you like, to whoever. It could be a good friend, it could be a lover, it could be anybody really who makes your day. We all need the help of other people most of the time to see things in the right light, and I do too. So, I mean, this song was just a debt of gratitude, if you like, to a certain person who made my day once upon a time, and it was a wonderful day too. The gospel-y sort of vocals, once again courtesy of Vanetta Fields, wonderful singer. She's done a lot of work with Renee Gaye, but she's actually from America and has sung back up with a lot of big people, including, I think, Aretha Franklin. But she came down and just did some singing for me, and I just fell in love with her voice and wanted to use it more and more, and she actually ended up on 8 of the 10 tracks. But once she locked into the chorus on this one, there was no stopping us.
Can you tell us about the song Not For Nothing?
Not For Nothing is a love song. It's fairly self-explanatory from that point of view. It was notable for me because we took it to a certain stage with the band, the studio band, and then a friend of Ricky's and Timmy Kramer, I should mention, was the engineer on these sessions, and he's a wonderful human being too. But anyway, a friend of theirs called Vince Gill came down and played some mandolin on the track. He was touring Australia with the fastest fiddle player in the West, some guy who claimed to be the fastest fiddle player. He was a famous country player. He was touring with him, and he just came down and did it. In about the second take, he had it. It was sweet little phrases he played, and it gives the track a nice innocent feeling. I like it because of that. It has an innocence and a purity to it. Unashamedly a love song.
Now, the song on the album that strikes me as being the most overtly personal statement is Minor Key. It seems very much a heart-on-the-sleeve type song. Would that be a correct interpretation of that song?
In a minor key, yes. Well, it came first as that phrase, and then I explored the phrase and the meaning of the phrase and applied it to a relationship. And yes, I did. I was very truthful in this song and honest as much as I could be about how the relationship can go into that minor key after starting off da-da-da-da, grand passion, grand amour, and that can never last too long. And usually if it finishes, then the relationship finishes, but if it survives, then you go into a minor key and it's much more enduring and worthwhile, and it's a different thing. This is like people talk about what is love. What does love mean? You know, love is not that initial passion or lust or anything like that. It's what survives all of that and goes on and endures and becomes more a sort of intense companionship or something. All of that is what I tried to sort of cover in this song. It didn't really occur to me that it would turn out as strong as it did, but I think once again, you know, thanks to the players on it, and Richard T., who was another friend of Ricky's from America, he was out here touring with Paul Simon at the time. He just happened to drop down and play some Fender Rhodes on this track, and he in fact played on Fraction Too Much Friction and a few other tracks. But when he sort of wrapped his fingers around this one, it all started to go into a different sort of level, if you like. So, thanks to him and all the other guys who played on it, this song came alive.
The next track stands out as being a departure from the style of song that is evident here. It's Grand Adventure.
Grand Adventure is a blues sort of song, if you like. It's an update blues song with conceivably a dance feel. It's not a straightforward dance feel, but you could dance to it. And it was done from a fairly wild sort of point of view, really, because a lot of the other songs are quite tightly structured and arranged, and this one we just wanted to bash out and have some fun with, and we didn't take it that seriously, but once it was down and we could see the possibilities arrangement-wise, we just went with it, and we were able to sort of dabble with this one and be free with it, which I think is probably the main reason we ended up including it, because it has a sort of freedom, if you like, about it that some of the other tracks don't. They're more tightly arranged. This is more of a jam, and there is that side to me. And the steel drums on this song I really like. There's another friend of, what's his name's, a guy called Doug Lacey, who played the steel drums, and Amanda Vincent from Eurogliders did some great synth work on this one as well.
Okay, Staring at the Embers, can you tell us a bit about this song?
Staring at the Embers is a song about, the end of a relationship, staring at the embers of memory or whatever, and they still burn, but they're no longer flaming. And I think it's notable, really, for the vocals at the end with Vanetta again, giving it that soulful sort of edge. And a great little sax break from Joe Camilleri in the middle of the song. And also the feel on this one. Ricky Fatah, the drummer, this was his favourite feel of the whole album. And of course it is very simple, but it just sits there. It has that sort of sitting, you could sit on it. You could take a 20-stone man and sit him on this track and he probably wouldn't fall off. It's a possible single, I would think, at a later date.
One track that struck me the first time I heard any of the material off the album was Wait and See. The main thing about that particular track was hearing the Tim Finn voice, which I'd associated so strongly with Split Enz material, used in such a soul-orientated style. It's very much a black American soul song, and yet it's you. It revealed a whole different dimension in your voice. Is that something you were aware of at the time?
Yeah. Wait and See was a real surprise to me because I played it, wrote it at home on the piano, and it was kind of poppy, if you like. It seemed fairly sort of lightweight almost to me. But I tried it out with the guys, and it just shows you what good musicians can do, because with the right feel and the right sort of backbeat and the right approach, you can take a song like that and really make it go just a bit deeper, make it dig in a bit deeper. And it did sort of open up that soul side of it and made me sing it that way, if you like, very laying back on the song and sort of making every note count. And I found it hard to sing initially when I went for it, but after a while it just fell into place. And I just think the feel on this song really made me sing a certain way. It's a subtle thing, the effect that instruments can have on the voice. I think singers particularly have a very strong link with the drummer. I've always found that in the various incarnations of Spit Enz, that my abilities to sing in a proper good way, in a sort of honest way, were directly proportionate to my relationship with the drummer at any given time. And if we were having problems, then I just found it hard to sing. But thank you, Ricky, for this one. It's a good feel. It's probably quite an American-sounding song. There are a few songs on the album that have slightly American sort of overtones to them, which is surprising to me, because I've never explored that part of me before, with, if you like, with Spit Enz. It's always been, given that we have our own sound, but we've always been more English-orientated than American. But at the same time, when I think back to my youth and that, I was influenced by a lot of good American records, so it's a chance to explore that.
I Only Want to Know. I guess this song has a similar type of feel to Fraction Too Much Friction?
Yeah, it's a kind of a dancey sort of track with boppy brass stuff on it. I think the brass overall on the album is really nice, because it's not too sort of tidy it's really played. You can really feel it. A lot of people use brass now from the old Fairlight and whatever, so it's so tight. But I had Joe Camilleri and Wilbur Wilde come down, and a guy called Peter Cross on trumpet, and they just did the sort of shot type brass on this, pop, pop sort of things that gave it a nice kick along. Very confused sort of lyric in this one. I think it does say something, but it's kind of obscure. It's before and after and during and whatever a relationship, and it's just the confusion and the doubt. But anybody who's feeling confused can identify with this. I have an auntie in New Zealand. My father played her this track recently. I just got a letter from him. And she's a very conservative woman, and of about 55 or 60 odd. And this was her favourite track on the whole album. I don't know what that means. There you go. And the ending of this one, Vanetta came up with just the really simple vocal lick, I only wanna know, which was nice. I remember standing out in the studio beside her. Me, her and Ricky did it, and I just felt like I was part of like the little gospel trio, because she just decided, you sing this part, you sing that part, and because she's come up through a background of gospel, so she knows what she's doing.
With Growing Pains, I felt it had the most familiar feel in terms of your style of writing and singing. It has a very distinctive Englishness about it that a lot of your songs with the band, especially in the early days, had. You seem to be using the English inflection in your vocals that was so distinctive on Poor Boy from True Colours. Is there any particular story behind this song?
Growing Pains. It's possibly what people would expect from me, yeah, and in terms of what I have done. It fits in easier with what they're used to. I think it just came about as a vaguely nursery rhymish sort of song that I started doodling around with on the piano, and before long the song was there, and it kept that nursery rhyme thing, but it took on. It was just what happened to it in the studio more than anything that made it what it was, because beforehand it was just a little piano song, if you like. But it gave me a chance to say something about the pain of growing, which everyone is only too aware of, whatever age you're at. Anybody who's just had a baby you can play the little baby this song and see what reaction it has on him.
The song, through the years, from all reports, the Americans are very enthusiastic about this song. They've picked it up. That's great.
Through the years. It has that sort of 50s twist feel, if you like, a twist with a twist. I think it's... the thing I'm most pleased with on this song is the bridge, really, the chords it goes to in the bridge. I tried to work out today what they were. Any musician would probably be able to tell you, but I'm not being a musician, I couldn't really tell you. But they lift the song above that sort of twist feel, if you like. And it's got a great sax solo on it from Wilbur Wilde. Wilbur's a wonderfully wild saxophone player, but he kept himself in check on this one and did a lovely structured little solo that even he was happy with, because he's a perfectionist. God bless him. And as you say, the Americans I think, are moving towards this one as the first single. I can see why, but being the last song on the album, it's perhaps a a fairly anonymous position for a song that they consider to be so important. They'll probably insist upon putting it first or something. God knows. I'm just happy that the Americans are releasing the album. Whatever happens to it, I don't really care, because I didn't expect it to necessarily be released anywhere except for Australia and New Zealand. But Canadians have picked it up, the Americans have picked it up, so that's great.
The film clip for Fraction Too Much Friction is obviously not a Noel Crombie production, but did you play a part in the developing of the concept of the clip or production? Can you tell us a bit about how it was developed?
Well, this is one aspect of doing a solo album that's intrigued me and delighted me, if you like, is that I'm so in the hot seat. I have to be there to make all the decisions that Noel or somebody else usually makes. And certainly with the film clip, I came up with a sort of a rough concept, an idea, which then Richard and McGregor and Julie, mainly Richard, I guess, worked on, developed, Richard Lowenstein, that is, developed, and we shot the film clip over a period of 3 days, and I had such a great time doing it. The way we did it, from going around from different houses and different people's places, it gave it a whole social sort of party atmosphere, if you like, and that's important because the song is about the fact that there is too much friction, but it's also saying what we need is some positive action and positive thought, etc., etc. Inside this oyster there's a pearl, whatever you like. To quote from the lyrics, there is a positive slant to it, and I think this clip captures that. Me with people. It's funny because it's my first solo single, my first solo film clip, and there's more people in this clip than any Spit Enz clip. So it's quite amusing from that point of view.
The feel on Escapade is far more settled than, say, your work on Time and Tide. A much happier man at this time than that time? Do you feel that perhaps this indicates a lighter approach to life in future songs?
Well, I don't think, any album there's never been a definitive album from me or from Spit Enz, and, the direction that any one album takes is always only one direction, and we've always said that to people. So I feel with my solo career the same thing, really. This album is me captured more or less as I was prior to the album and during, and the feelings will carry on till now. They're still there with me. But things change, situations change, your circumstances change, your friends change, whatever. So I think, the next album I do, God willing, will be another step in a different direction again. The feelings that came through in the 60s, which were done, which were expressed in a naive, slap it on the wall and see if it sticks fashion, if you like, was sort of almost crushed during the 70s, I think, when a certain cynicism and apathy drifted in. But I really feel now that, when people like David Bowie are coming out and singing love songs or singing, songs about the world in general and wanting to make it a better place, and other people, of course, are doing it too, but when somebody like he does that, it's an obvious indication that people want more positive energy, and this feeling is sort of built up in me before the album, and I hope that there's a positive atmosphere to the album. Not because I want to be current or anything, but just because that's what I feel, and I think it's out there now. People are feeling it generally. Getting married, for God's sake, is hip again. Having children is trendy. And just loving each other a little bit better, or trying to, is an important thing, I think.
Why the title Escapade?
Escapade. Well, it was an escapade. I looked it up in the dictionary, of course, to check it out, what the word actually meant. And it was defined as being a flighty exploit, which was probably quite adequate, because flighty in the sense that up I went and away I went and all by myself up to Sydney, full of nerves and not really sure what the album was going to be like, not having a clue. An exploration of myself, another exploration. So Escapade seemed quite a good idea, and the fact that it was an escape too, if you like, and it also offers an escape, but not in a sort of wishy-washy sense. I think it, an escape into a better sort of feeling.
Congratulations on winning the Countdown Award for Best Australian Songwriter. Having just received that award, what qualities in your writing do you feel are best captured on the new album?
Well, as a songwriter, I'm always trying to get at the truth of the matter, just to get at the honest sort of statement. So I feel that I did, bear myself quite well, and especially on certain songs on this album. There's some where I'm still perhaps hidden behind metaphor or vague obscurity. But I think here and there, and enough for my satisfaction at this stage, I did touch on the truth as I see it, as I know it, and that's what I'm trying to get to, both lyrically and musically, because it's easy with music to collect sort of groups of cliches, if you like, and you have to guard against it and go for the honest melody that is there to be written, and not just take the easy way out and pick the first notes that pop into your head. I don't know, but it all gets a bit esoteric, but everybody has a job to do, and they all try, hopefully try to do it as well as they can. And my job is songwriting, And it's not something that I should necessarily be applauded for, because I was a God-given talent, if you like. But the fact that I work at it and try and make it work, that's what's to my credit, if anything at all. And I feel on this album that I worked damn hard at it. Now that I've written, quite a few sort of relationship songs, if you like, male-female songs, using that as a metaphor in some cases, but now that I've covered that area quite intensively on my album, I think it frees me with the Spit Enz album to look out again and write about the world more in specific cases, things perhaps that I might see that I feel are wrong, or just generally songs that try and unite people and bring them together. The best thing in the world is when a song can actually bring people together. I mean, and it can be a really corny song. Like whenever Neil and I go back to New Zealand, we always end up having a sing-song either down at the pub with the Maoris, or like in a recent sense, we went home for a wedding and we sang all night with relatives, uncles, aunties, etc. And it can be the most corny song in the world, like 10 Guitars, or The Green Green Grass at Home, or She Wears My Ring, or any old Bee Gees song, Beatles song, whatever. But if it brings people together, then it's worth its weight in gold. And I love seeing a room full of people just united by one song. So that's the power of music, and none of us want to abuse it, but that's what I want to use more and more, without sounding too grandiose. But I really feel these things, and so just have to get on with it really and put it into action.
And just to finish off, can we talk about the production side of the album, specifically the producers themselves, Mark Moffat and Ricky Fattar?
I can still remember the day I decided to use Ricky and Mark. There were several options open to me. I could have used a couple of guys from England. Steve Nye was one of them, and I think Steve Lillywhite was also mentioned, and there was a few other people, but all of a sudden I just felt I'd made the right decision about Ricky and Mark, because I liked the sounds and what they had done, things I'd heard before. Particularly, I thought Love So Sweet, Renee's single, was a really good production job, and I loved the drumming on it, so I thought, right, I'm going to go for it. I'd met Mark before, but never Ricky. And then the bonus was having Tim Kramer on engineering, because he's a friend of Ricky's who's come over from America to work here, and he's done some very good things in America, but basically he's exploring the Australian market now, and I think he's going to benefit quite a few people. But the whole team worked well. There was the four of us really, but certainly Ricky and Mark were the producers, if you like. They did the bulk of the work, and they complemented each other very well. So any doubts I had beforehand were soon dispelled, and the doubts were only that I didn't know what I was getting myself in for, because I freely admit, even though I've had years in the business, I don't know very much about sound. And production, well, a lot of it depends on the mood you're in, and for a good producer I think you need somebody who has a fairly constant mood, whereas my moods tend to go up and down a lot. So there you go. I mean, we had a good chemistry between us, and as the album progressed, all of us got more and more into it, and it was a real family by the end of it. And I feel I've made friends up there in Sydney now, which is nice. I think Ricky and Mark are going to prove a lot of things to a lot of people over the years. I think they're here to stay and not to be underrated.